This day could bite you in a big way, could escalate the drama queen inside your being and shower you in bouquets. This day could be your cabriolet, could elevate your peace of mind and help you find your very own judgment.
Hello everybody, welcome to the podcast.
Catlike Reflexes.
Welcome to Catlike Reflexes. My name is Bryan, I am your host, and I am joined today by the PodCats, Derek Howard and Brendan Main. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's going good.
It's quite well, thank you.
Great. How's the fam there, Brendan?
Living the dream, the 1950s dream. Colleen comes home, and I have the food all ready for her.
Yeah.
You know, and
For slippers and a martini.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, and we're training Emmett up to fetch the newspaper.
Oh, that's good. How's he doing?
He's doing all right. I
Yeah?
mean, he doesn't like it so much when we shock him a little bit when he doesn't do it right. But it works out.
You know, they say, spare the lightning rod, spoil the child.
That's right. And so, I mean,
What family do you come from?
The Addams family.
What is that, Amish?
Yeah, of course, that's right.
And Derek, what's happening with you in your world right now? I understand is it okay if I say you are doing some writing?
Yes, having felt the bug bite of inspiration, I'm attempting my first novel. I'm trying to tackle the largest piece of writing I'll go after. It's no secret that I'm a writer and have had stories in the past, but this time around, I'm actually going to try doing it about that zombie story we were talking about.
Oh, it's based on the zombie podcast.
Yes, it is.
If you haven't heard it already, a previous episode about the zombie apocalypse and different scenarios that we came up with, we were all just sort of brainstorming different ideas, and Derek actually became inspired enough to write a book about it.
Yes, because at the same time, one of our friends and close podcast listeners, Dion, released his book, 10,000 Days.
10,000 Days, which is available on Amazon and Kindle, so check it out.
And he released his novel while we were doing the podcasts. Brendan, once we spoke, Nahani and myself spoke of our scenarios, Brendan said, you know what, I would love to read those. And there you go, that's where the inspiration was.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Sorry if you just heard a truck go by. We do have the window open in the pod cave, and it's kind of hot in here, and I can't turn the loud air conditioning on, so I would rather you hear a truck than us sweat in here, because that is not a good situation. Speaking of zombies and death, that is the topic of today's podcast. Death. In particular, I want to talk about the deaths of beloved fictional characters, because drama is all about conflict and upping the stakes, and what could be more at stake than a person's life. So a lot of drama deals with life hanging in the balance, and sometimes people don't make it, and that can lead some people get very attached to their fictional characters, and sometimes when they die, people kind of freak out a little bit. Or maybe they don't. That's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today on today's podcast. So I just wanted to throw it open to the floor. Have you had, either recently or in the past, a beloved character die on you that you didn't expect?
That I didn't expect.
Or that affected you somehow, as maybe a better way of putting it.
I think Joss Whedon has the best
Oh
track record for not expecting a death of a character when you're just enjoying the scenario he's putting you through during any of his film or television, at which point, bam, in comes the death hammer. And
it seems to be his MO. His MO is create characters that you will love so much and then just yank them away from you.
Yeah, and he's done it well.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is that, like, it reads one way if the character is beloved to you, but it reads differently if they're not, right?
Sure.
So, let's say you watch Serenity, having not seen Firefly.
There's probably going to be a lot of spoilers in this podcast, incidentally. If you hear a title of a show or movie that you haven't watched,
we're going to
just want to pause or skip through.
You want to skip through it or just plug your ears and go,
yeah, that works too.
We are
I haven't finished. Now, Also, I'm going to confess I haven't finished Firefly, so I don't know what happens. But I think the statute of limitations on spoilers has passed on that.
But let me guess.
Go right ahead.
You probably haven't because no one's told you to watch Firefly.
Oh yeah, no one's told me to watch Firefly.
That hasn't happened yet.
Interestingly, I'm watching Firefly. I started rewatching it a week ago.
But you have seen it before.
Yeah, rewatching
the whole thing.
Yeah,
before,
rewatching.
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I interrupted your point.
No, anyways, so Firefly, as we know, nobody tells people to watch it. Nobody forces the DVDs into their hands and pries their eyes open like Clockwork Orange and it makes them watch it. It's not something that happens. Right. So in Serenity, you have all these characters from Firefly dying.
Yeah.
Some of them just show up to die. And it's sort of like, what was this guy's deal? I guess to die. I guess he lived his life to die. What was this man's MO? Oh, it is but death. So, watching Serenity without watching Firefly is kind of an uncanny experience.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of these moments that they're supposed to have this sort of emotional cachet, and they just don't.
Did you see Serenity prior to seeing
Yes,
Firefly?
I did.
I saw the entire Firefly, and then I saw Serenity.
Yeah,
So.
and I think that's how you do it, right? But I mean,
not for everybody though.
No, right. But I mean, when I say how you do it, I mean I think there's a better way to sort of approach the material. Joss Whedon is like the king. The idea that Joss Whedon is the king of character deaths is this idea that I've sort of encountered before on the internet, but if you bring somebody back from the dead, that's not really dead, is it? So now I'm going to spoil the Avengers.
Right.
Phil Coulson dies, and
that's
as the midpoint beat, mid second act beat in the Avengers, and
rallies them together.
Yeah. And I haven't seen it, but isn't the whole deal with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that he's just back from the dead?
Yeah.
On Agents of
S.H.I.E.L.D. And apparently
I've seen the full series.
There's sort of in the Marvel cinematic universe, in the production of it, there's sort of the people who do the movies,
right,
and the people who do the shows, the TV shows, so the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, and all that stuff. And apparently the movie people were really pissed when Agent Coulson got brought back by the TV people.
Right.
Because they were like, we wanted to kill him and make it really important, and then you were just like, Agent Coulson, aren't you dead? And he's like, nope. And there was like very little discussion about it.
And that was primarily a Whedon thing, having written and directed.
That's true.
Spearheaded Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there, obviously, with Whedon involved, there's a grand scheme behind how is he not dead. Mm-hmm. The problem is that after the 2 seasons, actually after the first season, they answered it. Oh, that's why he's not dead. Oh, okay, cool.
He's a ghost, right?
Yeah,
he's just a scary ghost.
He's
Midichlorians brought him back.
He's a Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
but the problem is that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they didn't reincorporate him back into the cinematic universe. They didn't put him back into the film.
So I mean, Avengers.
They don't even acknowledge it.
Avengers 2. After the opening action, the first act ends on this party,
right?
And you think it would be like, and everyone's sort of catching up with each other. It's like, hey, what's your deal? Aren't you like the Falcon? Yeah, I'm the Falcon.
Yeah,
Don't.
Aren't you War Machine?
Are you War Machine?
Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't all look alike on the phone.
And they're all sitting around, and nobody said.
And no one's like, "Hey, Phil Coulson is just back from the dead."
Yeah, where is Phil anyway?
Phil, who remember when Phil died and like that made us become the Avengers? He's avenged. He's back to life now. What's he doing? Oh, I think he's doing TV.
Where's Phil? Let's see if he can lift the hammer.
Yeah, but as
far
as they established in the show, because they're really keeping him at arm's length, the show and the movie. The only people who really know that Coulson is alive is Fury, and Fury wasn't at that party,
right,
and Lady Sif from the Thor series. She knows he's alive.
So, like, Maria Hill doesn't know that he's still alive?
They just revealed at the end.
They didn't even tell Colby Smulders.
At the end of season 2, they got Hill in on it. Yeah.
They did.
Did you know? But
someone's just gonna tell Colby.
Did you know that Colby Smulders is married to Taron Killam from Saturday Night Live?
A man can dream.
That just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
I don't know who that is.
You can, I think everybody's SNL dream is to someday be married to Colby Smulders.
Isn't that everybody's dream?
Yeah.
To be married to Colby Smulders? Jesus Christ. Anyway, getting back to character deaths.
All right.
You both are writers. You've all have a lot of experience in writing, and have you ever had to kill a character? Have you ever had that experience?
I haven't written a lot of fiction. And the fiction I do write, there's the axiom in writing to kill your darlings.
Right.
And my axiom is don't kill your darlings.
Just keep them alive.
Keep alive. Keep around.
They're pets.
And I mean, if
they're pets that will never die unless you kill them.
Yeah. So look, listen. If the Doctor can regenerate 13 times, or around 18 now, or whatever.
Sure.
If he can regenerate into sort of different variations of Dapper British Gentleman, then I mean.
Yeah.
Then why should anyone? No, I don't really write hard-hitting stuff. And if Derek's writing a novel, then I'm gonna write a novel. So whatever. So
I think that's the only motivation for anyone to write a novel is like everybody else is writing a novel.
I was writing a novel.
I'm gonna write a fucking novel now.
Take up smoking too.
When November comes around, I'm like, I already wrote a novel in a month. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Novel writing month. No. So I mean. No, I haven't. That's not something that I've sort of engaged with. I've killed characters in D&D.
Oh
yeah. But that's
now,
different.
do you mean player characters or or NPCs?
Both. But the thing is that like in role playing games, you're not really supposed to plot that. And the thing is that like people do and people cheat. And so like even people who have like for example John Barber who has strong opinions against story gaming,
right?
Thinks it's sort of a big cheat. It's sort of like, oh, this scene where this important NPC is going to get killed. He's like, no, that's stupid because it denies player agency and people don't like it. And it's just like a cutscene in a video game. But you can have a scenario where sort of like these people are going to attempt to kill this person.
Sure.
And they have a good shot at it. And so, I mean, you kill NPCs and you kill player characters. I mean, that's like... I think that for a game like that, it's valuable to be ruthless, right? Mm-hmm. Again, it's kind of like comics. Like, people can get resurrected and stuff, but I mean...
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the type of role-playing game that you're playing. If you go in with the intent that, all right, everyone just have a stack of fresh character sheets at your side because you're going to go through them
because
once
we're playing
every 5
Harmaster and you're just going to die all the time.
Harmaster,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
or
it's
you have one, sculpted, crafted, and then you're going to play that over the next 6 months.
People feel worse about killing NPCs than killing PCs, generally speaking. I think that the idea is that like people don't like it when their dude dies, but like once you grow up, it's kind of the funnest thing in D&D.
If your dude dies and you get to roll up again,
yeah,
that's amazing.
It's sort of like, oh, I never liked this guy, now he's gone, and no one, and like, it's completely removed from drama, right? Because like, it's like, oh, my guy's dead. Guess I'm gonna roll up his cousin. And there are no tier shit for player characters, generally speaking. Once you grow up, but people will get really attached to NPCs, and so if you kill an NPC off, then that's when the tears can flow freely.
Yeah. Now, Derek, I know that you're writing a novel you just mentioned, and I happen to know it involves zombies. Or I guess you just said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course
so
you did.
You could happen to know it because somebody told you.
I just forgot that you said. I just don't want to reveal it on you,
it,
but
sure.
Since it does involve zombies, clearly people must die. How do you deal with killing a character? Do you try to introduce them so that people feel something when they die, or what's your process, or do you have a process?
In the many years that I've been writing, which is probably around 25 years seriously, quite a few, the majority of which are short stories, some extremely short. I have written a lot of death of characters, but the interesting thing is I always plot the death. Going into the story, prior to writing the story, I plot the deaths. I don't believe that I've ever written a story and midway through the story gone, oh, you know what? I'm going to totally kill that character off and change the dynamic. That doesn't happen to me. I know that the characters are doomed going into the stories. And in fact, sometimes I write the death of the character as the central plot point to the story wrapped around it. In this case, zombies. Well, there's going to be a lot of death.
Sure.
I don't believe my main character is going to die, but if my main character has this samurai-esque feudal nihilism fatality about his person going, well, I'm going to die tomorrow anyway, I might as well just go, balls deep, let's do this, roar! Well, then that's going to make him very strong-headed. I've written stories, I wrote one story about this actor who, so it's a very talented actor living in this squalor who just wakes up one day and realizes that the whole world is full of stage blood as aliens have come down and assaulted Earth under the pretense that hell has erupted. Basically, it's hell on Earth, and the demons are coming. It's the Book of Revelation itself. Except this guy, the best actor on the planet, realizes, it's all fake. Yeah, that monster over there, it's fake. It's really good fake. But yeah. And meanwhile, these aliens, dressed up as hell demons, are actually killing the entire populace of Earth bloodily, gorily, around him. And he's just knocking it off like it's a stage production, which it actually is. It's a really fascinating... It was one of the most bloodiest stories I've ever written. And I knew going in, there's going to be a lot of death, and it's going to happen right beside him. And as I gave the audience, the reader, oh, you know what? You're watching this as a play. You're watching this as the audience. They were in on it, and so they didn't... Hopefully, my readers didn't actually care that people were getting slaughtered left and right because the main character didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting writing death. I tend to plot the stories around it. I don't. It doesn't usually come up that something surprising on my end.
Yeah, Brendan, I want to talk to you a little bit about a little television program called Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
And I understand that you're fresh on Star Trek: The Next Generation. You've just finished watching the whole thing again, from beginning to end. And I wanted
except for the episode where Worf gets crippled.
Obviously,
because I refuse. Yeah, spoilers. Well, yeah,
and then he's fine.
Worf gets crippled,
What?
And it was so moving that they decided to keep him in a wheelchair, and now he's Oracle.
Yes.
And now he's this whole deal.
Q shot him in the spine.
He wheels around, and
he used the bat lift on Pike. Give me that chair.
But I wanted to talk about Tasha Yar.
Tasha Yar.
What?
And Tasha Yar, are you familiar?
Yeah,
of course you are.
I'm surprised that this is going to come up. I love Tasha Yar, and I love that arc. So
now, Tasha Yar, for those of you maybe who aren't intimately familiar with Star Trek: The Next Generation, or maybe you're a little too young to have remembered it, Tasha Yar was a character, one of the original characters of the crew of the Enterprise. She was the security officer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Worf was under her.
Right, and Tasha Yar. I don't know what I'm not familiar with the production side of what happened with the actress or the production or whatever, but essentially in the middle of, I guess it was still the first season. Wasn't it?
That's right.
Tasha Yar, a main character, her name was in the beginning of the show, just before the Enterprise whooshed by. She just dies.
Falls in black goo and dies.
Falls in black goo and dies. How did that make you feel?
The thing about it is, like, it wasn't a surprise to me because I talked with Colleen about the death of Tasha Yar several times. So, I mean, it was already infamous by the time this sort of got to it. And, like, so it wasn't like a twist. I think that, like, the death of Tasha Yar, in terms of Star Trek The Next Generation stuff, is probably the element of the show that they handled most poorly. Right?
Yeah.
Because so the first season, there's something going on. She's not really very well. The actress does not really like the role, and the characters hadn't really sort of come into their own, and so she just wants out. I don't know the story. I'm sure it's fascinating, but I've read versions where she basically was not happy with it. They're like, well, then you're gonna really not be happy when you fall in black goo and die.
Right.
Fall in sentient black goo that is like concentrated evil, and just sort of dissolves her. But so they kill her summarily, and they have a bunch of people sort of like stumbling around sad about it. They have Data sort of stumbling around sad about it, and he talks about Tasha sometimes. But the thing,
he's like, hey, remember that time I banged Tasha Yar?
Yeah, remember that time I had sex with Tasha Yar? Oh, where is Tasha? She fell in black goo and died. Oh, heroically? No, not heroically.
She just had a trip.
So they brought her back twice, right? So they brought her back. They had sort of the alternate reality episode. They had this sort of conflicts of realities. Tasha Yar is there on the ship. And everyone's like, I wonder what I'm like in the alternate reality. And Tasha Yar is like, yeah, what about me? What about Tasha? And everyone's like, it's awkward. And they're like, you dead. And she's like, did I die super heroically? And they basically say on the show, no, you didn't.
Yeah, they do.
You fell.
She's like, so did my death have like a great
purpose
meaning?
Meaning?
And she's like, they're just like, nope.
No, you fell in just goo. And so the episode is like, all right, Tasha Yar, from an alternate reality, you can do anything. What are you gonna do? She's like, I know what I'm gonna do. Die heroically again.
Yeah.
So she dies again.
What?
And nobody remembers it.
And then die and be erased again. And then way later in Star Trek, they have this thing where it's sort of like, hey, what's up with this weird Romulan that's bothering us? She kind of looks like Tasha Yar with a Romulan wig. And she's like, glad you asked. I'm Tasha Yar's daughter. That's right. Tasha Yar survived. The thing that you thought she was dead. No, she survived. And she was forced to marry this guy. He raped her mercilessly, and now here I am. It's like, why would you bring her back to rape her mercilessly? It's like she was.
What if she fell in love with a Romulan?
She was, and it was sort of like she didn't like the marriage, and she hated it to her dying breath. She died alone, and no one even knew. And I'm half Romulan, and I hate you. It's like, well, you're half Romulan. You don't have to have the stupid Romulan hair. You could have whatever hair you want.
It was the 90s. She could have had Rachel hair.
Yeah, she could have had... The Rachel was very popular.
It was actually Tasha hair. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
But like... But they... Romulan, which is to say, like, in Star Trek it's okay if you're kind of like in brown face because you're just like a brown alien.
Right.
So they have her in brown face being like, oh, I'm a Romulan. Blue. I hate you. And it's sort of like... Why would you bring her back as a bugaboo? Why would you bring her back as a wacky alien dealy bob? And then then she's just gone forever, right? So like it's not a thing again.
She wasn't in the movies. She wasn't in. I guess she was in the finale.
It was sort of like, remember like Tasha Yar, because like, okay, one of the Star Trek is bad, and if you like it, you should feel bad about yourself. No, Star Trek TNG has a fandom. And I think that when you're a fan, you like things sort of irrespective of quality.
Right.
And that sounds like I'm making it... that sounds like a real diss here. But it's sort of like, if you like Star Trek, then the best Star Trek can be is the best Star Trek. But it's still of a mode.
Sure.
But you love the mode. You love that sort of like, hey, why an hour of television, let's write a 5-act thing. Instead of... It doesn't really have the beats that people are comfortable with. There's a lot of talking in it. There's a lot of sort of like, well, clearly we'll have to have a conversation about this. So we're just going to go back to the spaceship and just chat about this for a while. And they do it several times per episode. So if you like Star Trek, it's so type. But you have to forgive it its excesses. So like, the ridiculousness of space utopianism, which I think that Utopia is really taking a hit. Utopianism, I think, in science fiction is not really where the mode is at right now, and people are not particularly interested in it. And people often talk about dystopias, but all dystopias resemble utopias. So if it doesn't resemble utopia, it's not dystopia. So people are like, oh, Mad Max, a dystopian... So like, well, it's apocalyptic, it's not dystopia. No one's like, oh, I wish the Australians were driving around and getting me with their knife car.
Right.
You know, it's like, no one thinks this is utopian. But Star Trek is utopian. But so Tasha Yar is sort of like, oh, I come from a horrible planet. Yeah, my family, we used to run around to avoid the rape gangs. Yep. And it was sort of, and there was just like a throw-off line that was like, well, you know, I spent my childhood hiding out from the, sort of like, first off, and everyone's sort of like, yeah, you definitely want to run from a rape gang, just like from the name.
Also, who's naming these gangs?
Yeah.
What are we going to be? I don't know, the rape gang? Oh, sorry, now we're the canola gang. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's what's wrong about it?
It wasn't testing well.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, the audience isn't like that. So now it's just been rebranded.
Yeah.
No, but sort of, and this was sort of character development of the first season, right? Being like, oh, the rape gangs, they're so terrible. You know, you got to watch out for them because the rape gangs will gang rape you. So it's sort of like, what the fuck is happening? This is Star Trek. What's happening, Tasha Yar?
Yeah.
So and that's kind of all we know about her. Like,
yeah.
We'd also have Worf being like, oh, I'm good at kung fu, but Tasha Yar is way better. She's this diminutive human female could just kick my ass. Just believe me. Believe it. And it's sort of like, yeah, I could kick your ass, Worf. That's right. That's right. You're second in command to me and will be for the duration of...
That's how they choose the crew in Star Trek, is they make them all fight.
Make
the same way the Joker picks a crew. They just crack a pool cue in half and they're like, make it quick.
Yeah.
I own a hyena. All right. Character death that caught me off guard. Season 4 of Farscape. John Creighton.
Was he falling goo?
No.
Okay, I have no idea. So tell me about Farscape, first of all.
Yes, first of all, what is Farscape?
Farscape came out. It was a British production that involved the Jim Henson company, and it starred an unknown actor named Browder, who American. The premise is that this astronaut, John Crichton, finds himself into a wormhole during an experimental NASA launch, and he's shot to the furthest reaches of the universe, where he stumbled upon an alien conspiracy.
I wish we had a word for how far the escape is that I got warped to.
So, it was really weird, but it was in an era where science fiction was not weird. So you had Battlestar, or not Battlestar, you had Babylon 5, which was kind of weird, but it was a whole bunch of humans who had a space station a la DS9, and you had Star Trek, which was a whole bunch of humans. Farscape was one human, John Crichton, in an absolute maelstrom of so many differing races.
Nahani would have hated it. Because
No.
they were all puppets, right?
Well, half of them were, and yeah, Nahani would have hated it. No, I think Nahani would have loved it. Anyway, so after 4 seasons of really great hard science fiction mixed in with a bunch of space fantasy, it was a huge space opera and lots of beautiful, great storytelling. They didn't know that they were going to get renewed for the 4th season. It was, ratings are low. No, they came back in. 4th season, great. And after all the turmoil, all the strife, and the massive plot that happens at the end of it, you have, it's like Joss Whedon wrote this thing. You have Crichton, and you have his partner / lover, Aaron Sun, and they're sitting there in a rowboat, and they're just quietly like, oh, can you believe it's over? Aaron, I want to ask you, would you be my bride? And she looks at him and she's like, yes, I absolutely will. I love you, John Crichton. I love you, Aaron Sun. And they hug each other. And out of nowhere, this spaceship just comes out of literally nowhere in the sky. It just comes right down and shoots them with a laser beam. Pew! And they turn into little tiny blue blocks like Legos or Minecraft. Their entire body just turns into these huge Wile E. Coyote through a mesh cage blocks. And then these blocks crumble, they disintegrate, and they fall into the water, and fish start eating them.
Farscape, everybody.
And you're just like...
Fish!
And you're
Start
just like,
eating them.
Yeah, so like, you're just like... Because, they turn into blocks, and you're like, oh, well, okay, maybe they can survive that. And then they crumble, and they're like, oh, well, maybe they can survive that. They're
still good, they're still
good. And then the fish come and, like, eat them and swim off, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Now we gotta find every one of these fish.
And so...
And the
like,
antelope eat the grass.
yeah, and so they're like, all right, you know what? I bet the viewers didn't see that coming, and I didn't see that coming. I was blown away. I was just like, what the fuck?
So was this the final episode?
No, it was just this cliffhanger of season 4.
Oh.
Would you marry me? Yes, and it's the cliffhanger of season 4, and that's awesome, right? And the writers are like,
If this is on the internet, we need to view.
Fuck you,
we
you need to
this.
see. And so they're like, we have this in the bag. We're going to resolve this. Season 5 is going to blow the shit out of everyone. You're going to love this. They canceled season 5. Bam.
So that's just how it ends?
Oh, okay,
That's how
so it is.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And
Well,
everyone was like, what?
That's good.
Tables were flipping. The internet was on fire. So what they did was they finally got the resources together to say, can we at least put in a 2-parter finale? And they were like, fine. You get a movie, and it's a 2-part finale. It's called The Peacekeeper Wars, and that's all you get. And they were like,
all you need.
we got to wrap up an entire unwrapped up series in 2 hours? Yep. And they're in cubes at the bottom of the ocean? Yep. Okay.
And then fish ate them.
And you
I
know
like
what?
that they're space fish.
Oh yeah. And you know what? They did. They actually managed to get the plot up, going, resolved, and it was a rather touching ending. But no one saw that coming.
So they unkilled those characters.
Yeah, they were going to unkill them in season 5 anyway, but over a much longer and deeper, fascinating story arc that didn't come to light, and so they had to just rush, and they were just like, this is how they
First they had to squeeze the fish to get them back out,
and not through the mouth either. Just
just squeeze
just
them.
like caviar, like
They just pop.
Yeah.
For me, the one character death that really sticks with me, I might even have mentioned it on a podcast before, was in a comic book. It was the Blue Beetle.
Yeah!
Ooh.
Ted Kord's Blue
Ted
Beetle.
Kord.
Yeah, you did mention
Ted
this,
Kord.
Go on.
He it was in the lead up to the Infinite Crisis arc that was coming up. They had all these like It's almost Infinite Crisis. The lead up to the Infinite Crisis.
The
You won't
final
believe
crisis.
it's almost Infinite Crisis. So I forget. I think it was called Countdown to Crisis or something like that. And Ted Kord's Blue Beetle goes and he thinks that he needs to go into this place to find some information, and he tells like Superman and Batman or whatever, and they're all like, "That's nice, Blue Beetle," and like they sort of like talk down to him because he's not a really important member of the Justice League. So he takes it on himself to go and infiltrate this place, and I don't remember all the details of the plot, but he goes in there, and much of it is him learning all about the different characters through the computer that he's been hacking. But in the end, the bad guy discovers him and is like, "It's nice that you learned all these things, but you're never going to get out of here unless you play ball." And he's got a gun. He's got a gun to Ted Kord's head, and he's basically like, and Blue Beetle's just sort of like, "Yeah, well, fuck you." Like, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Comic
It's like, "I will not do it." He's all like bloodied and beaten or whatever, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do it." And I literally, like, I think in the actual book, you turn the page, and there's like a 2-page ad.
Yeah.
Nintendo
So
Power
I'm like,
Glove.
"Oh, what's going to happen?" And I turn the page, 2-page ad. Then I turn the page again, and the next panel is
It's Maxwell Lord
yeah, that's right, Maxwell Lord.
blasting him in the head.
And it's a silhouette of him getting his brains blown across the wall. And this is a character that's been around for a long time and was much beloved by many, including me.
Yeah.
And I did not see it coming because I thought for sure... It seemed like in this book, they were actually developing his character really well. And I was like, oh, they're developing him and he's gonna...
And it was in keeping with, like, when you think about Blue Beetle, it's sort of like, okay, so Blue Beetle, he hangs out with Booster Gold. The idea is, like, on sort of the runs of sort of, like, the JLA, where the JLA is just full of, like, jerks.
Weirdos?
Yeah,
Yeah.
jerks and weirdos.
Yeah.
We're sort of like, oh, let's hang out with Green Lantern. Oh, you mean like Green Lantern?
No, the Irish
No,
one.
Irish Green Lantern. It's sort of like, I'm glad that we have three Green Lanterns, normal, Irish, and black.
Right.
I think that's kind of how they did it.
What kind of tornado is he? Red tornado.
So Guy Gardner, right?
Yeah.
Who was done up as sort of like this, like, he wasn't. I don't know if you could sort of do him as a stereotype, but sort of like he was this hot-headed macho jerk, right?
Yeah.
And Booster Gold was, an idiot too.
Yeah.
And like, so you had all these characters, and Ted Kord would hang out with them, and kind of like he'd be like, "Guys, I'm as good as Batman, but no one likes me."
Yeah.
And that was and that was kind of his deal, was that he was good as Batman, but no one liked him because he was kind of a schmuck, right? So like, it's like, I'm as good as Batman, I'm as rich as Batman, I'm as smart as Batman. We're both kind of the same thing, but
I drive around in a big bug.
yeah, and so
I'm
there's
not
no
cool.
there's no panache. The thing about killing characters, right, is that like you can't kill Superman. The doing is in the killing, but then he comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, the only person who can kill Superman is Alan Moore, right? So you
Sure.
can't, and like you can Elseworlds kill him, or you can be like, oh, Superman 2 turns crazy or something.
Yeah.
But like Superman's like, we're gonna kill him in the 90s. Recently, they were like, you know who we're gonna kill? Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna kill Batman.
I think that was the collective response. Was like, yeah, right, sure you are.
Okay, so you're gonna kill Batman. Like, you can't even kill Captain America over in Marvel. Like, you cannot kill these characters.
In the cinematic universe, Loki, he dies at the end of Thor, thus giving Thor the incentive to rally and, I'm gonna defeat the Berserker, and then he's like right back, is like, screwed you, and then he dies at the and Loki keeps dying, and it takes away from it.
Ted Kord is still kind of dead.
Yeah.
Booster Gold has gone back in time to get him, so he's not dead. He's still dead, I guess, but he's not dead.
There was a storyline where they tried to sort of revive him,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like, no, I need to remain dead. And that sort of teased it. But the difficult thing is that, like, as I said, you can't kill Superman, you can't kill Batman, but you can kill
Blue Beetle.
The
Blue Beetle, right?
Yeah.
And it was sort of like, I'm still shocked by the wastefulness of that. And I mean, is it the current Blue Beetle is the Hispanic kid, right?
Yes, that's right.
Jamie Reyes,
Mhm.
who has like
He has an amulet
Yeah.
that gives him magic / technology.
Yeah,
powers.
and the Golden Age Blue Beetle did too, right?
Yeah.
And so like one of the things in the
And apparently Ted Kord had it, but didn't know how it worked, so he just did it with technology.
which is a great gag, right?
Yeah.
Like, I really appreciate that. So, and I mean, what DC is doing, what Marvel is doing, they're taking different paths, but I mean, I think they're sort of wised up to the fact that they sort of need, they need anybody to buy comics, and so one of the things that they can do is sort of reboot heroes, and get a little bit of diversity. So, but it's sort of like, but who cares about Blue Beetle, right? So it's sort of like, you know who Blue Beetle should be? Just this kid. We're gonna get this sort of kid, and it's not. And I don't know how it's been received. I haven't read it, but it's not Miles Morales, right? Like people love Miles Morales in the Ultimate, like and people clamor for sort of Danny Glover to be Spider-Man, because if the only movie they're gonna make is Spider-Man 1.
Yeah.
And then ruin it. Like, that's sort of what they figured out, is that every now and then you just need to make Spider-Man 1 again.
Yeah.
Why don't you have Miles Morales, right? Why don't you?
Sure.
Why don't you piss off the exact parts of the internet that need pissing off, right?
Sure.
Hey, Miracle Man, wasn't that written specifically with the foreknowledge that he was going to die in like issue 8 of 12 or something?
I don't know the history behind Miracle Man. The only Miracle Man stuff that I'm familiar with is the stuff that I believe. Hey Brian, could you Wikipedia Miracle Man? I want to say Alan Moore, but I think I'm getting myself turned around.
It is Alan Moore, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Alan Moore's Miracle Man. He breaks the fourth wall and sees the reader. That's the stuff of Miracle Man that I sort of have an experience with. Who else wrote Miracle Man, though? I mean, I feel like I'm pulling names out of the air, but I think to myself, and I'm like, oh, did
Grant Morrison?
Yeah, that's one of the things I sort of feel like is Grant Morrison.
Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yeah. That
Okay,
was
so
the
he's a
first incarnation.
sort of Golden Age hero.
So, yeah.
Maybe it's
Warren
not
Ellis
Miracle
ever?
Man. Maybe
Did
it's
Warren
Minuteman.
Ellis ever write?
Minuteman?
I don't know.
Oh, jeez.
One of them,
I missed them
anyway.
all.
But if you know
Anyways,
the character is going to
yes.
die...
Yeah. It was a shocking twist, because they signed on for 12 issues, and then in issue 8 he just killed them off, and everyone's like, what? And he's like, no, there's no more issue 9, 10, 11, or 12. And they're like, what?
Yeah. So, with that, what do you think out there, folks? What character deaths most affected you? What characters maybe would you like to see die? Which of the PodCats do you think could get killed off in a subsequent episode?
Oh, that's me.
Let us know.
Death, is it inevitable? Does it await us all?
Yeah. If we're all just cells, were we ever really alive in the first place?
Yeah, that's a
or
good yeah.
can we never die because we were never alive?
We begin to die the moment we're born.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
They say life is short, but it's the longest thing you'll ever do.
There you go. Death comes to us all. But for some of us, awaits something much worse. But when you die, Orokosaki, it will be without honor.
Oh.
I think I moved the Orokosaki in there, but I've always carried that. And then, like, he falls into, like, a trash compactor, and they crush him into a cube.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's like, that's some deep stuff to say to somebody who's about to be crushed into a cube.
Yeah.
They didn't expect us to be
Death comes to us all, Orokosaki.
Yeah. Suck garbage.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
Yeah.
Cowabunga dude.
Cowabunga dude. And like Casey Jones is so blasé about hitting the switch that crushes him into a cube. And it's like,
you just killed a man.
You just killed somebody like horribly, right?
Yeah, really bad.
Because I mean, he's conscious in there. He's conscious in garbage. He's sort of like, well, I'm in this sort of metal suit. I guess I'm gonna get crushed to death. I guess I'm dead.
Yeah.
And he punches his way out of the cube in sort of the sequel. That's fine, but sort of like,
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, but sort of
At
like,
least he didn't like get his cubes eaten at the bottom of the ocean.
that's right. I need to see this Farscape death because to me,
It's awesome.
As you describe it, it seems hilarious.
It's shocking and hilarious and awesome. And
I love how everyone else's science fiction seems implausible. So I'm like, oh yeah, Star Trek, it's no good. Like it's terrible. Watch Star Trek, it's no good, and watch it. And then someone's like, I watched Babylon 5, and I'm like, I literally don't know why you would do that. I can't fathom why. But it's like, oh, because
I liked it.
Yeah, but you've seen it, so you can like it. I haven't seen it, so I'm like, there's no reason for this dumb thing.
So tell us what you think, everybody. Do you have a favorite character, Des? Are you, maybe you are listening out there, you are the one other person besides Derek who has seen Farscape.
Yeah.
Hey.
Let us know. You can contact us, of course, at info@catlikereflexes.com, or you can check out where the action is on Twitter at CRPodcast. You can also check out all the information about our podcast, including our YouTube page, our Tumblr, and all that stuff, at our website, www... Wait, how many W's?
Now you hit
.catlikereflexes.com. Let's wrap it up.
Catlike
Reflexes. Good night, everyone.
Cherry picking verses. I see the waiting room of gods. To me, it just seems seek the living that you crave between the cradle and the grave.
The music at the beginning and ending of today's episode of Catlike Reflexes was Between the Cradle and the Grave by Heffervescent from their album Evolution Gains Again. I discovered their music on Jamendo.com, and so can you. Or you can find a link to it at our website, www.catlikereflexes.com.